Have you ever had this happen? Your team is working their tails off on the plant floor, putting in all the effort, but then the monthly P&L report comes out and it's just covered in red ink. It's one of the most frustrating things, right? You're left wondering, what is the disconnect? Well, today we are going to bridge that exact gap. We're going to learn how to translate that financial red ink into concrete, real-world action on the floor.
And this is really where the problem starts. We see a small number, like a 1% variance on a spreadsheet, and our brains just kind of dismiss it. It's just 1%, who cares? But what happens when you translate that? When that tiny 1% is actually a $144,000 hole in your budget every single year. Yeah, suddenly it becomes impossible to ignore. That is the translation we are going to master today.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose the core communication issue, what I call the two-language problem. Then, we'll uncover the true, often shocking cost of these variances. After that, we'll dive into a super practical four-step framework you can use immediately. We'll also talk about how to walk the floor like an investigator, not a tourist. And finally, we'll pull it all together and talk about how to shift your team from just watching the score to actually winning the game.
Okay, so let's jump right into the root cause. You know that feeling of disconnect between the front office and the production floor? Well, here's the secret. It's almost never about a lack of effort. The real problem is a language barrier.
This slide just captures it perfectly, doesn't it? Up in the boardroom, they're speaking the language of finance, EBITDA, gross margins, SG&A. But down on the production floor, they speak the language of operations, cycle times, scrap rates, overall equipment effectiveness. Both sides are talking about the exact same business, but it's like they're speaking completely different languages with no interpreter in the room.
So, this language barrier brings us to the financial impact. Because once we realize we need to be translators, we can start decoding the messages the financial statements are sending us. And believe me, those messages are often pointing to some huge, hidden, six-figure problems.
The very first thing to get your head around is that your P&L statement is a lagging indicator. Think of it like a rearview mirror. It's fantastic at telling you where you've been, what you already hit, but it tells you absolutely nothing about where you're going. The problems you're seeing on today's report, they've been living and breathing on your floor for weeks, sometimes even months.
And this leads us to a really crucial shift in perspective. You've got to stop thinking of a variance as a failing grade, like a big red F on your report card. Instead, think of it as a signal. It's just a clue from the financial system that's waving a little flag and saying, hey, something over here didn't go according to plan. You should probably go investigate.
So here's that translation process in action. The P&L might show a $15,000 labor variance. Okay, that's just finance speak. But when you go investigate on the floor, you discover the operational cause. Maybe there's a ton of downtime because operators are always waiting for materials. All of a sudden, a vague financial problem becomes a concrete, actionable goal. We need to reduce material delivery downtime. Now that is a target your team can actually hit.
Now, let me share the secret sauce with you. This is the most powerful technique I know for getting everyone's attention and creating a massive sense of urgency. It's called annualizing the gap, and it is how you turn small, easily dismissed issues into major strategic priorities.
Let's imagine you're in a packaging operation, and you find out that you're using just 3 cents more film per unit than the standard. 3 cents? I mean, come on, in a daily meeting, that's the kind of number that just gets ignored, right? It sounds completely insignificant.
But what if you run 2 million units a year? Well, that tiny 3-cent problem just became a $60,000 hole in your profit. Now, you show your team that number, and I promise you, suddenly everyone is laser-focused on fixing that machine setting. That's how you get immediate, passionate buy-in.
So, you've uncovered the true cost, everybody's fired up. Now what? You need a system to actually go fix it. This 4-step framework is your toolkit, your roadmap for turning that financial data into a concrete action plan.
The process is really simple. First, you quantify the gap in those big, impossible-to-ignore annual dollars. Second, you convert those dollars into a floor metric your team can actually control. Third, you set a clear baseline and a realistic target. And finally, you use a simple impact-effort matrix to prioritize your actions and go after the quickest wins first.
And that second step, converting to a floor metric, is so important. You can't just ask an operator to go save $60,000. It's meaningless. But you can ask them to help improve OEE, or overall equipment effectiveness, by 5%, or to boost first-pass yield. These are tangible goals they can directly influence every single day.
And for that final step, prioritization, this matrix is your best friend. You just plot all your potential projects based on their financial impact and the effort they'll require. And that top left quadrant, high impact, low effort, those are your quick wins. You tackle those first to build momentum, get some points on the board, and often free up the resources you need for the bigger, more complex projects.
Okay, so you've done the analysis and you've got a plan. Now it's time to go to the Gemba, the place where the work actually happens. But your approach here is absolutely critical. You are not just taking a tour. This is so important. The best leaders, they do their homework before they even set foot on the floor. They use the data to form a hypothesis. They might think, our labor variance is high, and the data suggests it's probably because of downtime on line 3. So the floor walk isn't for random discovery, it's for confirmation.
This is your mission when you walk the floor. You are an investigator, and you're looking for evidence of the hidden factory. This is all the wasted time and effort, the rework, the waiting around, the extra motion, all the non-value added stuff that just quietly eats your profits. Your job is to make it visible and then to eliminate it.
All right, let's bring all these ideas together into one final crucial shift in mindset. It's really about changing how you view your role as a leader and how you approach performance in general.
And this is the perfect analogy. The P&L statement, it's the scoreboard. It tells you the score after the game is over. But you don't win the game by just staring at the scoreboard, right? You win by executing on the field. For us, that means focusing on the floor metrics, the processes, and the daily actions that are ultimately what drive the numbers on that scoreboard.
It really all comes down to this. If you want to truly improve your margins and finally bridge that gap between the boardroom and the floor, you absolutely must master the art of translation, from the language of finance to the language of operations.
And so I'll leave you with this challenge. Go grab your latest P&L, find your single biggest variance, the ugliest number on the page, and ask yourself this question: what is the specific floor action that fixes this? The answer to that question is where your real work begins. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for watching the videos and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the content, ring the bell and like and subscribe. If you want to learn more about operations management, check out the books at the links in the description below.